Senator, let's talk about this. We talked before the election. We talked during the election. I know you and your colleagues were out there working hard. And this was an election year that many people believed Republicans would have better outcomes. They didn't here in the state of Michigan for the first time in a long time. They've taken control of the House and the Senate. You are now going to be the leader of the Republicans in the Senate. How do you approach this next 4 years as the agenda is going to be set by the Democrats for the first time in a long time?
Yeah, I mean, it shows how divided the nation is, how divided the state is. I mean, you essentially have as close to 50-50 in both the House and the Senate, with a one-seat majority for the Democrats in both the House and the Senate. And so and I think that's something where, even though Governor Whitmer won by double digits at the top of the ticket, and really, outspent, I think, about 10 to 1, $50 million to $5 million to what Tudor Dixon, is that they reshaped, I think, the narrative and talked all about abortion. That's been settled. That's in the Constitution now. And so it's something where I'm going to continue to do what I've been doing the last several years, is I'm going to concentrate on what the hardworking families in West Michigan are looking for. Results-oriented leadership, trying to work to lower taxes for Michigan residents, families, seniors, small businesses, working to expand opportunities for education in terms of worker training, career and technical education, trying to work to lower the cost of gas prices, energy costs here at home. That means keeping things like Line 5 open, stopping what Dana Nestle's trying to do and shutting down Line 5 that would increase propane and heating costs and gas costs, trying to work to allow real infrastructure to be invested in and grow, and trying to lower that cost. And so it's something where I'm going to continue to work and do the work and put in the work, and I know our caucus, the Republicans and caucus, stand ready to work if it means expanding opportunity, expanding business opportunities for Michigan residents, and be that work. But if they're going to try to limit freedom, expand government, and really try to dictate to people what they can and can't do, increase gas prices, increase energy costs, and lower opportunities, then we're going to, work hard, fight hard against those kind of policies. But I stand ready and willing to work together to try to expand opportunities here in Michigan.
So the leadership for the Democrats in both the House and the Senate have a very similar problem, and you just outlined it a moment ago. That is, they have the majority. That's always a good thing, but it's a very narrow majority. So they have to keep all of their votes together in order to get things passed, or alternately, they have to do what you were just talking about, work across the aisle with Republicans. You've seen this from the other side, being in the majority and trying to keep sometimes even much larger majorities together. Mm-hmm. How difficult do you assess that is going to be, given that this is the first time the Democrats have had complete power in Lansing for decades, and there are a lot of things that they've had shoved away in their desk drawer for a long time that they want to do?
I think it's something I'm not in necessarily a position to give them advice on how to work through it. But if I was in their shoes, I would look at finding ways to find a bipartisan consensus and try to govern in that middle 70%. I think people expect here in Michigan, hardworking families in Michigan expect us to get real things done, such as supporting education, investing in our roads and infrastructure, trying to work to make Michigan more competitive, not less competitive. And some of their ideas, and what I've been hearing, would make Michigan less competitive. Some of their ideas, and if it includes investing in hard infrastructure, roads, bridges, rail, et cetera, would probably mean making us more competitive. And so this is something where I think, as I look at any of these issues, are there opportunities to move the state forward? Then let's team together, let's work together. Or are these areas where it moves the state backwards and make us less competitive for both families to start making a living here, invest in a business, and grow that business here? You're right, 56 to 54 in the House, 20 to 18 in the Senate. That means that they have to decide either as a coalition on how to get it through with the slimmest majorities, or whether they govern in a larger bipartisan way and try to find that consensus. And I think the way the voters were, as you look across the nation, that I think people are looking for us to get things done. And my hope is that we can move things in a positive direction here in the state of Michigan and be a positive force. But if they try to undo some of the big reforms that I think have helped make Michigan more competitive, then we're going to have to fight back on those.
You talk about being more competitive. How do you make a state like Michigan more competitive when we know that we want to create more good-paying jobs, and we at the same time are trying to get people more skills to take advantage of those good-paying jobs? How do we as a state present ourselves as competitive to other states that are attracting jobs and workers?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a few things. One is we've made some of those areas, our state, a bit more competitive, such as 10 years ago when we passed right-to-work legislation. We've seen wages go up, we've seen investment go up, and we've seen economic development folks that wouldn't put Michigan on the list, that are now Michigan is on the list for investments and jobs and creating those jobs because we're a right-to-work state. So we got to preserve that. But there's also areas, such as a few years ago during all these lockdowns during COVID, we had the most severe lockdowns in the Midwest. And that didn't help in terms of making our state more competitive. I have manufacturers that have facilities in both in the Holland area and also in Iowa. Iowa, they were never shut down. In Michigan, they were shut down for a few months. And so in the future, if they're looking at making investments, who has a more predictable environment in terms of those kind of investments? I do think that the permitting that we see out of the state departments, I think are very important, that we make sure that the environmental, the Department of Transportation, Natural Resources work together to make sure that they're streamlining the permitting process so that when companies invest here in the state of Michigan, that there's actually guidelines and timelines on those permits coming through. You see that in North Carolina, you see that in Georgia and other places. There's a site in Cass County that just got over $100 million investment, I think about 80 or 100 new jobs that were there. It took MDOT 4 months to do a curb cut permit. It took me calling up the director of MDOT to try to get them turned around on this, and it took a week of me bothering the director of MDOT. I think that's unacceptable. Before I think we got to get the permitting process down, and a multinational company that was doing that investment that didn't require a dime of state money and is trying to create a $100 million new site with 80 new jobs, how are they going to look at it when it took them 4 months to get one permit from the Michigan Department of Transportation? That's wrong. That needs to be fixed, and it's something where I think a lot of times very far left-wing progressive environmentalists don't want these permits to happen. You're just seeing that around in Muskegon, around the lake there, as they're trying to redevelop it with old manufacturing sites. They're still waiting on permits from the environmental department, Eagle, to issue those permits for hundreds of millions of dollars of investments to happen in that state. I have same examples in the Saugatuck area, in the South Haven area, of real investments and dollars that could come in, help create housing, help create jobs, help create family supporting jobs to last in here if they would just issue these permits. And this is a real challenge that I think we have in the state. And it's a challenge that I continue to try to deal with these department directors. And it's been a change from when Rick Snyder was in charge, when he empowered these department directors to try to, how do we simplify things and get these permits issued? And under Governor Whitmer and these new department directors, it's taken a lot longer, and we're going to see a lot less investment because of it.
Well, we know that the game is set for the next 4 years with Governor Whitmer and with the Democrats in control of the Senate and the House 2 years. Is there any way to make those kind of changes, given that the players are largely the same, the folks that are in control of all of those departments that have to issue those directives or issue those permits are going to remain Governor Whitmer's choices? So is there any chance of getting that change?
Well, absolutely. If she's serious about economic development, growing the state, investing in Michigan, then she has to be serious about permitting reform. And that's something where I'm looking forward to working with anybody across the aisle and across the Capitol to help make sure that that gets done, and continue to be an advocate of making sure of trying to create less friction for the kind of investments that we need in the state to keep young people here, to grow jobs, to develop the economy, and to grow the population here in Michigan to be a top 10 state. And so I'm going to continue to work work on this. It's something where I'm going to continue to challenge the governor and these department directors to work to actually make sure that these permits are done in a timely manner and that they're actually put out there so that we can see these investments and jobs grow here in Michigan.
Finally, when you think about coming back here in January, it's going to be a different environment.
Probably a little more snow.
Yeah, that's possible, although I don't think it'll be much colder than it is today. You're going to move over to the Capitol. You're going to be leading the Republicans in the Senate. You're going to have to put your agenda forward while the agenda overall is going to be being set by Democrats. How different is it and how difficult is it going to be for Republican voices to be heard, and how confident are you that you are going to be able to work with the new majority?
I mean, we have a great group of Republican senators. Mark Heisengott of Grand Rapids, good, practical business owner, somebody who wants to take care of business, somebody who wants to grow jobs here in the state, who's a great advocate for Grand Rapids and Kent County. John Bumstead out of Muskegon, who continues to want to see Muskegon develop and change and grow. You know, Roger Victory out of, the Zeeland, Holland area, somebody who's, his agricultural background and work in terms of processing and education is going to be very valuable to the state. Rick Outman, who's been a real leader out of Mount Calm County, that's been a real leader on health and human services issues and trying to work to make sure that we have a good healthcare system here in the state. And so there's just a number of folks in our caucus that are ready to get to work, roll up our sleeves, and continue to work to move our state forward. And we're going to be, we're going to work together. If it's moving the state forward, if it's moving the state backwards, we're going to work and fight and make it very difficult for them to rewind some of the good reforms of making us a more business-friendly state, making us a more family-friendly state, and making sure that we lower that friction of having capital come into the state, grow incomes, grow jobs here in Michigan. So that's why I got together. We have a policy committee that I've put together for Republicans. We're going to be issuing a good set of policy recommendations after the first of the year on what we stand for, on the areas that we want to accomplish in terms of jobs, education, infrastructure, healthcare. Put that forward to the people and hopefully provide some ideas to the Democrats that there is positive difference that the Republicans are going to continue to work on and make.